You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 251 of Teach Better Talk podcast. Holy cow, we can't believe we're still here either. My name is Ray Hewart. I am here with my incredible co-host, Mr. Jeffrey Gargis. And hey Jeff, how's life?
You drinking tonight or something? Incredible?
Well, I've been trying to be kind to you because you just edited an entire course. And so I feel a little guilty that you had quote unquote, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see me do this, a lot of work to do recently. So
yeah, it's definitely in quotes because honestly, you and Dave had that set up so well that it was really actually pretty easy work.
I'm thrilled to hear that.
The majority of the time was just the upload in time and stuff, but it was pretty okay. So. Wait,
are we recording this? Did we just get that on audio?
Yeah,
that
you got that on audio.
Woo!
Yeah, you did a great job with that, right? Made it very easy. Now, I did say you and Dave, so we could give a little more credit to Dave versus you, but, take it however you want.
Can I tell you, Jeff, we're going to go back in time here for a second, but our podcast listeners like when we kind of share lame stories
or they like
of the
Mark
past.
Keller and just skip this whole intro
Okay, let's
thing
just pretend, guys. Lame story of the past, okay? So when I joined the Teach Better team, the Academy had just started. I think that it was it had right before me.
I think all it was is we just had basically just the grid method course.
Just the grid method, because I made the second course, which was the Teach Further model.
Yeah, you're right.
In the Academy, it existed, but it was actually two courses. It was both Chad's course on the grid method from a long stinking time ago. And so the Academy has been something that, of all the things Teach Better, I've actually worked on a course numerous times. This isn't really a new process. So I do have to tell you, though, this was my first course that I'd ever done with someone else. And I will never go back ever again.
Well, it's kind of crazy because, as far as I knew, you were doing a course and then you're like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm doing this with Dave and we're done.
Yes.
Whoa, okay. All right. Didn't know you started, but great.
Well, because here's the deal. You know how Teach Better works. We come up with an idea and we lay it out the right way. And sometimes we have a really quick turnaround time. Sometimes we're able to plan a good chunk of time. For this specifically, we were like, hey, we have 7 days. Do you think we could put out a course? We were like, why not? So
that's when we're like, well, I don't know. Hey, Ray, do you think you could put out a course in 7 days?
So I wanted to, and we asked our network, what course do you feel like is missing in the Academy? And they gave us so many ideas. I'm so excited to put out a course every month, essentially, in the Academy, thanks to our incredible team. But something that keeps coming up that I feel very confident speaking about is the idea of being able to effectively and strategically allow for student conferencing. Mm-hmm. And so as I was getting into the course, really designing this to be intentional for any type of educator, K through 12, any subject area, I realized that a lot of this work needs to be modeled and discussed. And what better person to bring in to discuss really intentional questioning and data collection and evaluating of students, except for Dr. Dave Schmittou. He just was an easy fit.
Yeah. So all right. So tell us about it, because the course. This is today is March 1st, which means the course is out today.
It's out today.
If you're already an Academy member and it's for $9 a month, you got all of it. It's already in your My Courses dashboard.
Yep.
If not, you can go over to teachbetteracademy.com and get it. Tell us about the course. So, you and Dave did it together, so it's different because of that.
Very different.
I love the sort of the format and several parts of it. It's where there's an introduction piece, a little bit of info, and then there's you and Dave talking, which is just it's being almost a fly on the wall, but you're getting this. Or actually, no, that's not right. Not fly on the wall, because it's you're speaking to me. So it's like being the only student in this course taught by you and this class taught by you and Dave, which is really fun. So tell me about the course. What is it when you talk about student conference, and what are we talking about here?
Sure. So the whole course, when you go and you'll see it in the Academy, it's called Strategic Student Conferencing. And we wanted to create a space not to tell you how to implement student conferencing. This course is kind of after the fact. Once you have the time, where you are really committed to having student conferencing, what do you do with that time? And it's not easy, because I know a lot of educators that shift around hours and hours of lesson planning to ensure that they are getting one-on-one or small group conferencing with students. But then the question is, you get them in the conference, and what are you going to do with that time, whether it be a minute, 5 minutes, or somewhere in between? So we decided that we needed to be intentional with our student conferencing.
Which dog is that? Which dog is that right now saying hello? He's being very intentional right now.
He's intentional. Guys, my dogs today got a bark box. This is not an ad.
What is
a bark box? And they got all these toys and treats, and I'm going to tell you that I brought them down to my office, and they refused to let go of this one toy that I could. It's a long story.
Are they battling over it? Is that going on?
Oh, yeah. They're switching every 7 seconds, and they've ruined this podcast episode. So shame on them. The poodles. Boy, with the poodles already. All right, back to the course. So anywho, I'm really excited because we split student conferencing into 5 key roles of an educator, 5 key things that you should be considering. And within those 5 things, we introduced the concept, and then Dave and I talked shop on him. And it was really, really fun to get his insight. He has incredible metaphors that Dave's able to share. And I really loved the back and forth, dialogue that we were able to have on these very important concepts.
Yeah, something that I love about our stuff is that I always get to see the courses before anyone else does, so I get to get a view on it. And yeah, it's cool. I really like the course. I think people are gonna eat it up, and I'm actually, I don't know if I'm worried, but I'm interested to see. I think a lot of people are gonna tell us hey, this is how all the courses need to be now. We need 2 of you to do them.
I know,
and it's got to be this format and stuff. But I feel like that both of you enjoyed it a lot more.
It was
just seems
so
like
fun.
the fun way to go. So
it was so fun because I went through and I recorded kind of the introduction of these 5 concepts, and I got Dave on a Zoom call, and I was like, dude, let's spitball and brainstorm. And that's really what this course is. You hear our authentic brainstorming and conversation, and it was so stinking fun. I'm never doing a course alone again, guys. Mark my words.
All right, there it is. I'm taking that as a challenge to see if I can get her to do a course alone.
No. Just go check out the course. It's teachbetteracademy.com, or if you go to teachbetter.com, you can just click on the Academy login. And it's called, like I said, Strategic Student Conferencing. So it's when you have the time for conferencing, what do you need to be focused on? We go through everything from collecting data to evaluating student understanding to providing feedback and everything in between. I'm so stoked.
I love it. So... All right, speaking of dynamic duos, we got Joan and Jeanie here, and wow, these 2 women, this is a cool episode. So
fun.
They were with us together. It's awesome. So they work together. They're consultants. They have an incredible amount of years and years of experience in education in a whole wide variety of roles. They kind of rattle them off. I'll let you do that. They're also consultants. They're also co-authors. They speak all over the place. They work with schools and organizations all over the world. This was a really fun conversation. I just really enjoyed their insights and how they look at failures, how they look at, we talk about appreciative inquiry, which was really cool, their passion behind that and how they kind of flip that into resilience. I was just eating it up. So, and they were just super lovely people. It was just a lot of fun to hang out with. So anything you want us to pull out of the episode, Ray, before we dive in?
There's so many good nuggets, guys. And make sure to go follow both these women over on social media. They are constantly sharing. And, the more you can connect, the more you'll learn.
All right, let's get into episode 251 with Joan, McArthur-Blair, and Jeanie Cockell. Hey, what's up, podcast? It's Jeff. Don't worry, I'm going to get you right back on the episode, but I want to make sure that you are aware of our brand new series going on right now, and that is our Building a Grid live series. This is every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Chad Ostrowski, creator of the Grid Method, is going to be going live with a different educator and building a mastery grid. This is one of my favorite things to do, is watching Chad work with an educator to unlock that creativity and create these grids. We have educators from all over the country coming in that are in math, science, reading, social studies, writing, art, PE, and even an admin coming in to show on the support side. The series runs from right now all the way until April 13th. That's every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Stream it on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Twitch. Building a Grid live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't miss it. Now let's get back to the episode. All right, we are here and we are chatting we have a special episode. We've got 2 guests with us today, a duo of Joan and Jeanie. And Joan and Jeanie, so awesome to have you on the podcast. Super excited to learn about you and your story and everything that you're doing. Before we get too far into the questions and stuff, how are you feeling today? How are things?
I'm feeling really great after a fabulous walk in the wind along by the ocean. So I'm feeling fabulous.
Yeah, it's a fabulous day. We're really excited to be on this podcast with you talking about education. It's an amazing force in the world.
Absolutely. Joan and Jeanie, we're so excited to get into these questions. I know you guys have been sharing that you had a wonderful day today. It was fun to catch up and chat a little bit before this episode began, but I do want to make sure our listeners get to know you both and kind of understand the work you do in education. So would you mind introducing yourself a little bit, kind of answering the age-old question of, hey, what do you do?
Okay, Joan's going to go.
I'm Joan McArthur-Blair, and been introduced already. Jeanie and I are consultants now in education. We come to that work out of a lifetime as educators. I personally have done one of everything from faculty to president, and I believe education is the single greatest gift we give as taxpayers to the next generation. When we think about the work that gets done in the K-12 system and in higher education and the ways in which people get to learn, this is my passion and my raison d'etre. I'm a poet, I'm an author, and I'm a long-term teacher.
And I'm Jeanie, and I too am passionate about being an educator. Everything I do is something to do with teaching and learning. And most of the time I'm learning, which is wonderful. And I spent my career teaching math, being a department chair, being a dean. And then I moved into consulting because I wanted to work with all sorts of different kinds of organizations, because every organization, there's some place for learning. And I'm a facilitator. I love facilitating processes where people come together. And really, I like to surface their wisdom because they know what it is they can do well, and they know what they want in the future. So that's one of the best things in my life, is to apply appreciative inquiry, which is basically to focus and ask questions around what's working in order to build the preferred future. And so that's my passion. And I co-author with Joan, and co-speak and co-present and co-teach. I'm teaching a lot of teachers right now in graduate schools.
Oh, I love it. So much experience in both of you, and between the two of you together, such a dynamic duo. And I love you talked about teaching and working with people that you're always learning, that you're trying to facilitate and ask these questions and all this. And it got me excited because you mentioned the consultant, you mentioned co-author. So I'd love, can you share with us a little bit about the consultant? Like, when did that start? What made you move into that part of that world of education? And then maybe if you can also kind of take us into then how the book came and what the book is. Jeanie, can you kind of take us on that? Maybe start off the story, and I guess you've probably told the story a million times, so there might be some back and forth, however you want to do that. But Jeanie, you want to share with us sort of what made you get into the consultant side of things? What drove you to that? How long has that been around? And then Joan, maybe you can then take us into where the book came from, what it's about.
I'd love to do that, Jeff, because I decided to go into consulting because I was running a large provincial project for the Ministry of Advanced Ed and the Ministry of Education in British Columbia. Over 20 years ago now. And when I came out of that, because I'd been a dean and done all these different things at the college I was at, and I thought, I really don't want to go back to doing that one kind of institutional job. But I've got so many connections across the system, I'd like to just continue on. There were projects coming up from the project I'd been seconded for. And I thought, well, I can start those. I can go back to teaching math half-time just to make sure I've got a kind of Linus blanket to hold on to as I develop my consulting business. And within a couple of years, I was so busy, I had to tell my math students I wouldn't be teaching math anymore. And I moved into a whole mix of things. And I went beyond. Post-secondary education has been the main focus, but also then moved into other aspects of education and other aspects of organizations, and have just really enjoyed it. And Joan joined me. You're going to tell me?
I joined Jeanie about 11 years ago now, and when I'd finished a presidency. And I think that what really fascinates me about consulting, and I think is powerful, is as a consultant, you get to kind of sidle up to people's vision and ask them, how can I help you bring that vision to life inside your organization? And it's extraordinarily cool work to do. Sometimes we do strategic planning, sometimes we do coaching, sometimes we do huge engagements where people want to engage the entire organization or school system and where they might want to go. And so it is wonderful work to do. And, for those listeners who can't see us, of course, we're not exactly young anymore. And so it's a wonderful thing to do in that kind of latter part of a career where you start to gather up all the little bits and pieces that you've experienced and said, how can I help the system? So Jeanie and I have written a couple books, but the one powerful one that's most recently out is the Appreciative Inquiry in Higher Education, a Transformative Force. And this is the second edition of this book, which really is built out of seeking to understand what's positive in the system and ask that powerful question, what more might we do? And so that just came out in the fall quite recently.
And we also, not all the stories are located in higher ed. And we tell stories in all different kinds of schools and other places as well, community. And because it's hard to contain where this can be used, right? In terms of education connects to the communities. Education connects people to their work worlds. And so education is such a connecting force that it's, that's one of the things we love about it, because everywhere people are learning in some way, whether they know it or not, whether it's formal or informal. And what we found as we did the work with this first book, which is now our second edition, Appreciative Inquiry in Higher Ed, we, in a couple of years ago, published another book because we realized that so much of the work that we were doing with leaders was when we were using appreciative inquiry to surface their wisdom and do with strategic planning, team building, as Joan says, or all the different things we do with them, that we found that resilience was something that came out of everything, that people could take forward and find the hope in what they were doing. And we thought, wow, we need to think about how is appreciative inquiry helping people build their resilience.
And so those are our two books, one on kind of the tactical piece of appreciative inquiry and the other on resilience in our work and life.
I really love that. I want to dig in and sort of ask the question that you just sort of asked, and that is, how is appreciative inquiry helping people build that resilience? Can you give us a little insight into that?
Well, the power of appreciative inquiry, as I said earlier, asks those two really compelling questions. What's already happening that you want to appreciate and value, to recognize and to uplift? And what are you longing to do? And when we apply that to resilience work, we're really working with people to think about how do they foster hope and a hopeful view inside their schools, inside their colleges and their universities? How do they practice the strengths of the organization in times of despair? And how do they undertake to forgive those things that are outside of their ability to control? And so we bring these ideas together in resilience. And, just to tell a quick story about powerful resilience. This is back when I was working as a vice president. There was a kind of a series of cataclysmic organizational issues. And we met at 6 every morning in a crisis management meeting. Her first question wasn't about how big this problem was. Her first question was, what have we succeeded on since yesterday? And it just uplifted, and it's such a simple practice of resilience. And that's what appreciative inquiry brings, those appreciative questions that give people strength and power.
Oh, I love that. So powerful. So I'm really excited about, so one of my favorite questions on our podcast is when we talk about failure. And I love I love, you both have had long careers and done a bunch of different, so many different roles in education. And now in the consultant, you're going through so many, working with so many different organizations and people. I'd love to get the stories pulled out of there. I'd love to hear a story, if you can share with us, about a time that you've had a failure in your life that you've had to overcome. Kind of take us there with you. What happened? How did you overcome that? And then what did you pull away from that experience? Joan, why don't you take that one first, and then Jeanie, you can go after that.
Well, I've been in leadership roles a lot, and of course still am with our consulting business. And I think for me, I don't have so much a specific story as, a cautionary tale for myself. I think for myself, every time I have wandered from the very core belief of the deep and abiding respect for the wisdom of those around me, and deeply listening to those people around me and deeply caring for them, I have lost my way. And in a long career like I have had, there have been times where that's been a little short distance. It took me a couple of steps to get back. And there have been times where I realized that I was out there and somehow I had left my team and my colleagues far away from me. And so I think that's for me, those places. And I think, the interesting thing about failure is such a profound teacher and such a profound reminder of how easy it is to wander off this path that we hoped we were on. And so I don't have a specific example, but I know in my heart, those are the times where I felt deeply like I had failed.
I really love that reflection of not necessarily seeing one moment in time as a specific failure, but being able to reflect on the times where you went off track, and that being kind of that's a reminder, like, that's not what I'm working towards. It's not my intention. I have to get back on track. I really love and appreciate that take on the work that you both continue to do for educators. When it comes to all the things, right? I mean, geez, you guys have done so much. You continue to do so many wonderful things. What's really keeping you excited right now about education and the work you're both doing?
Well, I'll take that one on. Shall I, Ray?
Please.
This is Jeanie again. I think what really excites me is we have, as you've described, and as we're describing, is we have lived long lives with all sorts of experiences, incredible experiences. And I think what excites me is that people ask us to speak and lead webinars, and as you were doing a podcast, and teach. And so we're working on. Both of us are working with teachers in different doctoral cohorts. I'm also about to start an online course with people in a master's program, and those opportunities to have those conversations with teachers and educators who are really digging into the literature, the theories, the concepts that are like a new surprise for them. And, like one of the things is this notion of appreciative reframing. What is it I can do? One of my students was in a bad snow accident, and she said, when she came to class this weekend, it's a once a month graduate class on Zoom, she said, I was able to use that appreciative reframing that we're learning about, which is, I came out of the accident and I didn't know what was happening. And then I said, yes, but this will allow me some time to pause for a moment and do some of these other things that I really need the time for. So I love it when, what has been the content of the course, which is in many ways, we bring in appreciative inquiry, is actually practiced in real life.
Mm.
And I think if I might add, I think that the answer to the question is we don't have enough time on the podcast to do my list, but there are a couple of things that I think are so incredible right now in education. I think education is really beginning to take on some of the huge issues in social justice that have been there, and willing to begin to take them on and create permanent and positive change around the issues of social justice and race and power and privilege. That work really excites me. It excites me what we're going to take in education from the COVID experience of all being pushed online. And what is some of the best experiences that we can take, and the ways that people have integrated technology into their ways of being and delivering and thinking. And so that really excites me, particularly excites me as we're approaching faster and faster a world of machine learning and artificial intelligence, that, we've had this kind of mini experiment where we've all been pushed into this virtual environment. So the list is long for me, but those are two things that are really exciting me right now.
And I just want to add on to that, Joan, last year when COVID happened, we were planning to travel to San Diego and train appreciation choir facilitators. So of course that wasn't going to happen. So we offered for the company we work with to do that, we offered to reinvent it into a virtual appreciation choir facilitator training. And so the people that ended up in our first class in the summer, it took us a few months to develop it. And we're constantly learning in this new world. And we love that. But the people that came into the first class had all been registered as a face-to-face come to San Diego. So they were kind of resistant. They were kind of disappointed that we're not all in San Diego. But, it took maybe a day because we used Zoom partly, and we used LearnDash, which is an asynchronous platform. So the two together. And in the second day, somebody said, I should have always been learning like this. This is so powerful. So as Joan was saying, there's so much good that is really working well in terms of teaching and learning because of COVID and because of having to switch over to something else. Because the conversation had always gone on, we should try putting this online, blah, blah, blah. Well, you don't, right? Because it's kind of much more fun to come together face to face. And yet when you do it, you realize the power, and that can carry on. And we can just do more blended work between face-to-face, virtual synchronous, and virtual asynchronous.
So powerful. I think everything you listed was important, but I really love your reflection on the most recent, predicament where you truly chose to be flexible and you knew that your message was still valuable, even if it wasn't going to be in the same modality that you're used to delivering in. And I love the blended work with an asynchronous approach and so many different routines that you can put into that. So that's so wonderful. It's always tricky to provide one piece of advice to our audience, because truly, obviously, there are so many stinking pieces of advice that we feel are so important for our students and our learning. So if you had to pinpoint kind of your soapbox moment, your one piece of advice you'd love to leave our teachers with, what would that be?
I think the piece of advice for me is to never stop believing in your learners, to recognize that they're curious, that even those learners that come with enormous burdens in order to get them into school and higher ed, they come with a curious mind. And so to never stop believing that their desire to learn is as great as your desire to teach.
And mine, to add on to that, because I would agree with Joan on that, is to pause and think, what assumptions am I making about this learner? Because I can think back in my world of teaching when I would say, that student isn't paying attention. This is all the way back to when I taught math. She's not listening to me. And then I thought, why don't I ask her in the break, how's life? What's going on? And she said to me, she was an adult student. She said, the baby, I was up with the baby all night and I didn't get much sleep. I'm very sorry. I'm not able to pay attention in your class. And I thought, my assumptions, find out what's really going on. I think that's one of the best learnings I ever had.
Those are two extremely powerful and important pieces of advice. I love just to remember that they come with a curious mind, and then to not let the assumptions change the way that you are thinking, and to recognize those, I think is so powerful, to be aware of that and have that self-awareness. So that's awesome. I appreciate it. I want to keep having some fun here, keep going here. So we're going to do the next 6 questions. Your goal is to answer in 15 seconds or less. So let me ask you, I'm going to allow you to go either way here. So we can either go back and forth, or the two of you just choose amongst the team who's going to answer each question, or we could I could go, okay, Joan, your answer is Jeanie, your answer. How do you want to do it? You want to do back and forth or just as a team?
Just fire away at us.
Fire away at a team. I like it. I'm good with that. I love it. Let's do that. All right, here we go. What is one EdTech tool you cannot live without?
What?
One EdTech tool you can't live without? Zoom, for sure.
Give us a book you're reading right now.
Creating Leaderful Organizations.
I've gone back to reading Meg Wheatley's work. Just interested in the way she looks at leadership.
Who do we need to follow on Twitter or Instagram today?
Me, not much.
I follow people on Twitter and Instagram. I have this, it's actually on Instagram, Pandemic Pedagogy. And it's just a listserv, essentially, where people put up questions about teaching in this very new environment. And I love it. It's everything from I don't know how to turn my Zoom on to I'm using this really complicated interface, and is anybody else in the world using it too? And it's just this place where people are playing in this new environment, and I just enjoy it.
Love it. What's a good YouTube channel, website, or podcast for educators to check out?
Well, yours, of course. I think that Positivity Strategist by Robin Stratton Cockell has a huge number of resources. The David Cooper Ryder Center for Appreciative Inquiry in out of Champlain College has huge resources on appreciative inquiry. So those two for sure.
And the Center for Appreciative Inquiry too has lots of resources. Yeah.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Well, for me, the most fundamental thing that I do every day, and I think for any teacher, is to have a gratitude practice when you get up in the morning. Very profound. It sets your day up. You set up 3 gratitudes or more if you want, and then just one thing that you're going to do to have a good day, and then a vision for the day. And that's amazing how then suddenly you're into your day going, okay, I have a vision for the day, and I have some things I'm grateful for.
I love that. And finally, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think the best piece of advice I ever received was the day I stopped being nervous on the first day of a course, a class, a workshop is the day that I've stopped believing that people are curious and I need to retire.
Powerful. Oof. So good. I really want to make sure, ladies, that our network connects with you. You're clearly not only continuously doing good work, but constantly looking to help each and every type of educator. And so would you mind sharing your website, your Twitter handles, kind of everywhere where people can get connected to you?
My Twitter handle is writer at JMCB. Our website is CockellMcArthur-Blair.com. People will be able to see it in print when the podcast is up. Under the same name, we have an Instagram page where I periodically post poetry related to educational work, which if educators are interested in pulling that poetry down and using it, they're welcome to. So those are the big places that people can reach us.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And you can find all the links, all the resources, everything we talked about in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as the really important links for connecting with Jeanie and Joan and keeping the conversations going. So make sure you head over to teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really appreciate that as well. And let's keep taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and connect with the amazing educators, and just share this podcast with them. Joan, Jeanie, this was a great episode. I'm so glad you came on as a team. There's so much. I think we could go on for a long, long time. There's so much value that you guys can bring from all your experience and everything you do. I really appreciate taking some time and sharing some of that knowledge with us tonight. And I'm really excited for people to connect with you and to continue learning and growing with you. Thank you so much for taking some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff and Ray.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great fun.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.